Well. If it isn't spooky month, if it isn't spooky month once again, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling spooked out of my god darn mind. Just love getting in the spooky spirit and reading a lot. Naturally, I've got my spooky mug. It's a little Pennywise little it mug. Look at that. I'm a consumer. And my spooky fucking shirt. So, can anyone deny that I'm the spooky man? I'm this. Anyway, this week I decided to branch away from my usual affair of sci-fi and fantasy and take a little tiptoe into more, contemporary works. More, you could say, normie. That might be something fair to say. Something that is very mainstream. That's fair. I read this book chatting with my cousin, who's a girl. Okay, I never would have read this because this is a stupid girl fucking literature, all right? And I'm a boy. I'm a boy from fucking Venus or whatever. I don't read this shit, but it's Verity. It's pretty good. I read this like fucking 8 months ago or something, but I'm just taking advantage. I haven't had that much time to read lately, so I'm recycling something for spooky months. Fucking sue me. Verity summary. This. Oh, right. Right, okay. All right. So, Verity, written by Colleen Hoover, a girl, is about a young lady named Lowen. Her last name is spelled Ashley, like the very, for lack of a better term, Caucasian way to spell it. I don't know. I'm halfway. Like, I get the Ashley pass. She's a writer and she's depressed. She's going through a rut in her life. She has no stable relationship. She's lonely. She gets the opportunity to write books for this other author who is much more famous and much more popular, whose last name is Verity. Crawford. Verity Crawford. It's kind of like how a less, mainstream per se, but, equally, if not more talented author is taking over for George R. R. Martin when he retires. Anyway, so she's like, okay, sounds epic, but then, she finds out there's like this spooky car crash, and there's like things that have happened. The reason that she is fucking not able to write the books anymore, it's like, oh my god, she fucking got in a car crash, and her husband is like, oh, did he fucking do it? Did he cause a car crash about bleh? Who knows? Who knows? But the husband, who naturally is hot as fuck, okay, is like, come on over to my mansion and hang out, and you can write all this shit. You can have access to her whole library and stuff and hang out and hang around. So that's epic. And she goes and does that. She starts writing and reading all of Verity's old work, and then lightning strike. The spooky things start happening. She reads. She finds some of Verity's old manuscripts, and she's like, I've never found this published work before. What the fucking hell? And she reads it, and it starts off, and like, Verity's like, my husband's hot. Presumably fat dick. She never. Never mind. My husband's hot. I like him. Few cum swallowing scenes. So that's not something that I've often experienced. I don't want to be immature or anything, but to my cousin who had me read this, why? Why this? Why this book as your first choice? Cool book, but a lot of cum swallowing. Anyway, that happens in the first bit of the manuscript, and then it's like she's writing it, and she's like, and Ash or Lowen's reading it, and she's like, what the. And it's slowly ramping up in mystery, and then at the end she's like, and that's how I fucking killed my children. And it's like, wow, or something like that. And Verity is still alive, but incapacitated in the house. So then it kind of ramps up into this very spooky, kind of chilling story about like living in this giant mansion, reading essentially what it is, a diary of an author whose work you're covering and whose husband you're simping for, which is revealing that she may have killed her children. Or a child or whatever. And all while this is happening, it's kind of implied that Verity may not actually be incapacitated. Blah! Which is like, whoa! And there's some really spooky scenes that come of that, such as like when Lowen's like up in her hospital room and she's like Verity's not, like, still okay. Like, she's fucking passed out and, like, stupid. And then, like, she bends over to pick a pen or something, and, like, she gets up and fucking Verity's like, like, stares at her, and it's like, ah! There's a lot of that kind of stuff where it's very spooky and atmospheric. This kind of hot, steamy romance that Lowen has with Verity's husband, Jeremy, is hot and steamy. Okay, you know, whatever. But it's also kind of dreadful. It's fucked up. I feel like, for me at least, Lowen is not that likable because what she's doing with Jeremy around his incapacitated wife. To each their own. Not my idea of a healthy start to a relationship, but who knows. That continues, and it's like building this tension because you're like, like Verity's definitely still fucking galumphing around this house. Like she knows what's going on, and it's spooky. And like simultaneously, despite Verity not being able to talk, we're starting to kind of see what she was like through these manuscripts. We're seeing a side of her that presumably at that point Jeremy didn't even know, and only Lowen is like, fuck. So I think that's a really good way that the novel builds suspense, and I really read like most of it in one day because it really is gripping, and it's super easy to read it from beginning to end because it's nonstop. And I think this kind of plot is almost old school in a way, like being trapped in this mansion with a like silent ghost kind of thing. It didn't feel like a lot of modern stories. It was a very fun, like kind of almost ghost story, a little bit of a psychological thriller, one could say. It's cool. I'm going to move on to a little spoilery stuff because there are things I like about the ending and things I dislike. It's essentially revealed at the end that these manuscripts that Verity left in her office are, or at least according to her, fake. She was writing these to like express herself in different ways as a writer. She was trying to get in the head of a villain, and we don't find that out until after Jeremy fucking clobbers Verity on the head and kills her because Lowen's like, you need to fucking kill her. She's fucking crazy. And he wakes Verity up and she's like, yeah, I was faking being unconscious, but blah, 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 blah. And Jeremy's like, ah, bonk, and fucking bonks her and kills her. And it's like, oh. And then Lowen finds the admission like under her hospital bed that says like, yeah, that shit was fake. That was just awesome and cool fiction writing. Like a really, really strong reach for a twist that I was like, odd, but it's so weird for her to like leave this note under her bed. Anywhere else with the manuscripts, you know, like the reason she made this was so if Jeremy ever found them, he would have an explanation. So why not put them with the manuscripts that would inevitably be gone through if he vanished? I don't know. But it kind of gained some nuance for me when I eventually book clubbed this book with my cousin, and she was like, I think Verity is lying in the admission note. And I don't think that's true. But apparently there are two kind of polarizing sides, which is interesting. I like endings like that. Even if the endings are silly or I don't really find them believable, I think it's cool when it's a little bit left open to interpretation and you can kind of fucking debate about it. You know, and there's no real proof either way, but it makes it for fun chatting. And it's not like I don't know if the book is taking itself that seriously. It's not like I'm like, ooh, what the fuck? Like, it's just doesn't make any sense. I mean, I'm kind of like that. I'm a fucking dweeb, I know. But it's you know, I think there's some leeway allowed. If this was like a Stephen King book, I'd be like, you know, he's kind of legendary, and I think every word is worth hinging on in each of his novels. But from what I can tell this is the only Colleen Hoover book I've read, but she writes things that are fun to read and are very gripping, and that continued, including with the ending. Even though it was kind of silly for me, I was still like, oh, that was fun. I didn't regret reading it, and I didn't really even feel disappointed. It was just kind of interesting. One other thing that was just kind of funny is that Colleen Hoover writes romance novels, and even though this is a thriller, horror kind of deal, you can tell what her origin is. There's a lot of sex scenes, and they're steamy, and they're drawn out, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I still felt like that was a major appeal to this entire book. And the ironic part is that in Verity's admission at the end, where she's like, this is fake, she's like, says like, you really think all women love sex that much? And it's like, I'm not saying I do, obviously, of course not. But I did just read a book where that was the main draw of the book, coming from this manuscript, which simultaneously mocks that, people like reading smut. So it's essentially a smutty book saying, do you think people only like smut? Why would I talk about smut this much? Meanwhile, the smut she was writing about is, people were like, yeah, including me. Sure. Fair. I'm not blameless. Anyway, in conclusion, despite this being a dumb girl book, pretty good. I don't know, I'd probably give like 7. Very fun. I'd check it out. I'm glad I read it, and maybe, I don't know if romance is my genre, but if she came out with anything else, I think she's actually making like a sequel to Verity. I swear, I'm just making that up. I might just be making that up. But if she came out with some more off-brand stuff, I like her writing style. It's simple, and she can craft an engaging story. So maybe I'll check it out. Maybe we'll give it a shot, Colleen Hoover. You've roped in one of my crowd, one of the cool boys. So good for you. I gotta stop editing videos this exact same way.